It's 10-day trend time. Thanks for joining me. We're still in the first half of summer and we've just had our first taste of summer heat. That is being swallowed up by the Atlantic, but will it return? We'll be looking at that as we head into next week. But first of all, let's come back to the current situation. After the jet stream has been shifted south for most of late spring and much of June, in recent days it has finally shifted north, which has allowed hotter air to waft in. But behind me, we are in for a shift. The jet stream is driving back further south, a bit of a pep in its step as well. The pinker colours there suggesting quite a strong core of the jet, and it's not only just strengthening, it's also bending. And this trough, as we know it, is a breeding ground for low pressure systems. And in here, at the moment, low pressure is forming. Quite a deep area of low pressure, in fact unseasonably low for the time of year. That's going to bring some wet and windy weather across the north and the west during the course of Thursday and Friday. And it is also going to usher in cooler air. So the warmth that's been building, we've had our first 30 degrees of the year, is going to get pushed away as the low moves in, and particularly this weather front just sweeps away the hotter air. And temperatures will be back much closer to average come the end of the week and into the weekend. Also for the weekend, we need to keep an eye on this next area of low pressure. More on that in a second. But before we get there, first of all, let's rewind the clock and just watch this weather front as it comes in. We'll bring some cloud and rain, but the rain really fizzling out as it crosses through central and eastern parts of England on Thursday. But the rain is not fizzling out close to the low. You can see it spiralling around there, sending unseasonably wet and windy weather across Scotland and Northern Ireland. Very blustery conditions for the end of June for Northern Ireland and Western Scotland on Thursday. The winds only slowly ease on Friday, and plenty of showers packing in. Not a couple of days to be up in the Highlands of Scotland. Wet and windy and feeling cold as well. Temperatures will be dipping away, even across the south also. That cooler air is ushering in, but there'll still be plenty of sunny spells. But this map shows quite nicely the difference in temperature when you compare Friday to Wednesday. Wednesday, the last of the hot days really, and by Friday we're all in the cooler air, and some areas are going to be 9 or 10 degrees lower on Friday afternoon compared to Wednesday afternoon. So yes, it is going to turn cooler with temperatures back much closer to average for Friday and the weekend. What about the weather for the weekend? Well, remember this area of low pressure I talked about earlier? That is the main feature. It's giving us a few headaches, certainly for Saturday. Still, the old area of low pressure up to the north, still providing plenty of showers, certainly across northern Scotland. But this one may introduce more cloud and some patchy rain elsewhere. But if we look again at the bigger picture and what the jet stream is doing, it's pretty weak now, and it's kind of breaking off and driving to the south. Nothing to really spin this area of low pressure up. So this is what we call a flabby area of low pressure, and as a result it's pretty weak, and it's just kind of meandering towards the UK. And as a result of that, there's some uncertainty about its exact position for Saturday, and that's shown quite nicely on this graphic, this Dalmatian plot from the European model, plotting, when we run it many times, what's called an ensemble forecast. Each of these pinky, purpley, browny blobs is a position of the low pressure, that low we talked about a second ago, from each of those individual computer model runs. And you can see there's quite what we call a spread, quite a range of where that low pressure could be, perhaps into southeast Scotland, maybe down to the southwest of the Republic of Ireland. So it's not unusual when you have these weak weather systems, particularly in the summer months, that aren't being forced by the jet stream very much. And yeah, so quite a spread, quite a range of where that low could be. And that's going to impact the weather, because that weather system will provide more cloud and some outbreaks of rain as it spreads in. Most likely over parts of Wales and northern England, some patchy rain on Saturday, but the low could be further north or it could be further south. So as I said, quite a range of different possibilities for Saturday. So keep up to date with the forecast if you've got plans for Saturday. There's still a lot of fine weather around. And then on Sunday, as that weather system starts to clear, there is the potential for some heavy showers across parts of the south as well. Always across northern Scotland, the breeze coming in from the west or the northwest, plenty more showers here on both Saturday and Sunday, although by Sunday that first low should finally be starting to clear away a little bit. What about the temperatures through the weekend? Well, this map is now showing temperatures when you compare them to the June average. Now, we're at the end of June, so you'd expect them to be towards the higher end. But generally speaking, we're back much closer to average for the weekends across much of the UK within that plus to minus 3 brackets. Some signs of warmth, a bit of sunshine across East Anglia in the southeast on Saturday, and staying on the cool side across the far northwest on both Saturday and Sunday, with those winds still coming in from the northwest. So temperatures much closer to average as we head through the end of June. What about next week and indeed next month? Well, we're looking out in the Atlantic, one weather system clearing away that potentially brings some showers to the south on Sunday. And then this low heading in from Iceland, high pressure down across the Azores, a classic picture of our weather, if you like. And this weather front will provide some cloud and outbreaks of rain, but there's quite a bit of uncertainty about the position of this low, this weather front, I should say. And that's shown quite nicely here on this spaghetti plot from the European model. Again, when you run the computer model many times, what's called an ensemble forecast, each of those model runs plots the position of the weather front, and that's represented here by each of these lines. And you can see quite a spread, again, quite a range of where that weather front could be. Could be pushing into western Scotland. It could be a few hundred miles out still in the Atlantic. That's for Sunday night. By the time we get to Monday, well, that spread, if anything, is even wider of where that weather front could be. Now, all the models are agreeing that this weather front is going to come in and bring some cloud and rain. Just a question mark about the timing. Ahead of it, plenty of fine weather across East Anglia and the southeast on Monday, and behind it there'll be a mixture of brighter spells and showers. But the timing of that weather front, say, still open to doubt. That's not unusual. We're 5 days away at the moment. And then into the rest of next week, we have that classic setup, if you like, with the low pressure across Iceland, high pressure down across the Azores. And say, this is kind of your typical weather pattern across the UK, particularly so in the winter months, the jet streams coming in from the Atlantic. And in fact, this is what we call the North Atlantic oscillation, or the way we measure the North Atlantic oscillation is by taking how low the pressure is across Iceland and how high the pressure is across the Azores. And the North Atlantic oscillation is a way of looking at the pressure patterns across the Atlantic and how they affect the UK. And we either have a positive, a neutral, or a negative NAO, North Atlantic oscillation. And when it's positive, it means the pressure up across Iceland is lower than usual, and the pressure down across the Azores is higher than usual. So you have a stronger difference across here. That's a positive NAO. And when that's the case, with low pressure here, high pressure here, you get westerly winds coming in from the Atlantic. And that is our most likely weather flavour throughout next week. And that's shown on this graphic here. There are the dates going along the bottom there, and the coloured bars from 0 to 100%. Of the different flavours of weather. And this dark blue colour is the positive NAO, and that will dominate through the weekend, and it looks like for most of next week, or at least even by Thursday, that's the most likely scenario, 60% chance that that will be the dominant flavour. The next colour you can see there, which comes into play through the back end of next week, that next shade of blue is for a northwesterly wind to be the dominant weather flavour. They're both pretty similar all in all, so quite a strong signal that we have idea of what the weather's going to be next week. With the winds coming in from the Atlantic, that means we'll see weather systems moving in one after another, and it means our weather's going to be chopping and changing quite a bit. So for most of this week, we've had a fairly static weather regime with the jet stream up to the north. That's allowed the temperatures to build and many of us to see 2 or 3 days of fine and sunny weather. What we're likely to see next week with this positive NAO is the weather chopping and changing quite a bit. That's clear from the European model when this is the deterministic run, when we just look at that one main run, which isn't, again, always that useful for the details, but I just wanted to show it for the flavour of the weather as we go through next week, because it shows it quite nicely. This is the picture for Tuesday with a ridge of high pressure across the UK, low pressure out in the Atlantic. By Wednesday, that low's moving in, but then there's a ridge behind it and then another area of low pressure. Then for Thursday, we've got the ridge back again, and then another area of low pressure, and then for Friday that low's crossing the UK with some ridging down to the southwest. So it's that flip-flopping, that changeable theme that we're most likely to see through next week. Now for the details of that, we'll have to get closer to the time because of the range of spreads of those weather fronts. But it's likely that it will be that changeable theme. So every day is going to be different. One day may well be fine and sunny. The next day we may have a weather system moving in, bringing cloud and outbreaks of rain. But it is early July, which means when the sun is out, it's always going to feel warm. Temperatures generally with that westerly wind are going to be close to average. And the wettest weather is likely to be across the north and the west, closest to those areas of low pressure. So changeable as we go through next week, but still plenty of fine weather to be had. So for the details day to day, do keep up to date with the forecast. And of course, the best way to do that, if you're watching this on YouTube, is to hit subscribe, but also make sure you're following us right across social media.